Alright, so to start us off, we have example 1. In example 1, we have Diet Cola that's on sale, and it's 4 packs for $10. And we want to figure out how much will 2 packs of cola cost us. We should be able to look at this and know off the top of our heads, just using simple math, how much those 2 packs are going to cost us. But let's make a ratio table. To help us justify it. So I have, on top, I will put packs of soda. And on bottom, how much they cost. Okay, so I'm going to put the 4 and the 10 here. So I know that if I have 4 packs of soda, it's going to cost me $10. Well, I want to know how much it's going to cost me for 2 packs of soda. Since to go from 4 to 2, I'm dividing by 2, I have to do the same thing to the bottom. Since I'm purchasing half as many packs of soda, it should cost me half as much. So 2 packs of soda would cost me $5. Looking at B, how much does 1 pack of Diet Cola cost? Well, I can do the same thing, and I'm just going to use the same table up here. So if I want to go from 4 to 1, I know I have to divide by 4. What I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom. And when I do that, so if I do 10 and I divide it by 4, 4 goes into 10 twice, minus 8, left with 2. Put a decimal, bring down the 0. Oops, so that 0 should go here. And then I bring down this 0. It gives me 20. 4 goes into 25 times. And I get 0. So I know that 1 pack of soda is going to cost me $2.50. Alright, so we talked about a couple of different words at the beginning. We talked about rate, unit rate, and the rate of the unit. So looking at this, my rate, I'm comparing 2 different things. So I'm comparing dollars to packs. So my rate is $10 for every pack, every 4 packs. My unit rate is how much that I pay for 1. So my unit rate would be $2.50 for 1 unit, for 1 pack. And my rate unit is dollars per pack. So that's what I'm labeling it with. So you'll notice you have vocabulary in the front of your packet. So I want you to go there now. You have 3 words that we're going to define. Okay, so the first word, we're going to have the actual definition of a rate. So a rate is a ratio that compares 2 different quantities. An example of a rate from our notes is 10 packs for $4. Okay, so the rate is 2 different quantities being compared. In this case, like we said, it's $10 being compared to packs, so dollars and packs. A unit rate, so units, when we talk about a unit, we're talking about 1. And I like to tell my students to remember that uno in Spanish starts with a U and it means 1. So the U in unit rate is like the U in uno should help you remember that you are looking at something compared to 1. So the unit rate is a rate that compares a quantity to another one to another unit of a second quantity. It's also the value of the ratios. So it's a rate that compares a quantity to another 1 unit of a second quantity. So to another 1 unit. That's the key part. Another 1 unit of a second quantity. So for example, we have that there was $2.50 and I should have an extra 0 on here. So it was $2.50 for 1 pack. Add that extra 0. So that would be my unit rate because I'm taking one quantity, which is dollars, and comparing it to 1 pack. Okay, and then this is also the value of the ratio. So my ratio is $2.50 to 1, which we know as a fraction would be 2.5 over 1, which is just equal to 2.5. So your value of your ratio is the same thing as your unit rate. And then your rate unit, it's the label that you are comparing. So the label of what you're comparing. So in this case, I was comparing dollars per pack. So my rate unit was dollars per pack. And you can write this as dollars per pack as well. So when you're looking at this line here, that line tells us per. Right, so let's use this. So we have our exploratory challenge again. We have Tegan, who went to Gamer Realm, and he bought a new video, or he wanted new video games, and the video game place was having a sale, $65 for 4 video games. He bought 3 games for himself and 1 for his friend Diego, but Tegan doesn't know how much to charge his friend Diego. So since he doesn't know how much to charge his friend Diego, he wants us to help him figure that out. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight the important information. So is it important that he went to Gamer Realm? Not really. Is it important that they were having the sales, $65 for 4 video games? Absolutely. He bought 3 games for himself and 1 for his friend Diego. But Tegan does not know how much Diego owes him. So it's important to know that he bought 1 game for his friend Diego, because the 3 games isn't really important to us right now. It's important to know the question, what is the unit price of the video game, and what is the rate unit. So the reason we want to find the unit price is because if we can find the price for 1 video game, that should help us find what we need to charge Diego. So we know that 1 is important. 4 is important because he did buy a total of 4 games. 65 is important because that's the total cost of his purchase. And the 3 in this case is not important. It's extra information that we don't need. So we know we're looking for the unit price of the video games. So when I'm looking for the unit price, I'm looking for what's the price per game. So I'm looking for price per game. So I set up my ratio, and my ratio is $65 to 4 games. So when I set up my ratio, I can turn it in, it's a rate because it's games compared to dollars. So now I can write it in fraction form, and I want to know how much is it going to cost me for 1 game. Well, since this is games down here and I want to get it to 1, I divide both the bottom and the top by 4. Okay, so when I do that, I take 65 and I divide it by 4. 4 goes into 6 once. Minus 4, I get 2, bring it down. 4 goes into 25 6 times. Minus 24 is 1. Add a decimal, bring down my 0. 4 goes into 10 twice. Minus 8 is 2. I can add another 0. Bring it down is 0. And 4 goes into 25 times. So I know that 1 game will cost me $16.25. So the unit price, okay, so the price for 1 unit of whatever it is that I'm purchasing, in this case it's a game, so the price for 1 game is $16.25. and that would be per game. My unit, or my rate unit, would be dollars per game. All right, so let's go on to the next one. I want you to stop, pause, and I want you to highlight the important information and box the important numbers, and when you come back, we'll check over what you did. All right, so 4 football fans took turns driving for the distance from New York to Oklahoma to see a big game. Each driver set the cruise control during his or her portion of the trip, enabling him or her to travel at a constant speed. The group changed drivers each time they stopped for gas and recorded their driving times and distances in the table below. So all of this would be important. Okay, so the distance would be important, the time, who it was, and then each of these numbers would also be important. So instead of going through and highlighting and drawing around everything for that, we're going to look at the next problem. What two quantities are being compared? So what two quantities are being compared? So since it says two quantities, I know I'm looking for two different things. So I know that it's not the fans, it's not the people that are being compared to the distance and the time. It's the distance and the time that are being compared. So those are the two quantities being compared. So I didn't use 2 to find my answer. I used 2 to let me know how many answers I needed. Right, the second part, what is the ratio of the two quantities for Andre's portion of the trip? And what is the associated rate? So the ratio for Andre's portion of the trip, all right, ratio is 208 miles to 4 hours. Okay, and then the associated rate, I can break that down and simplify it. I know it's 208, so it's miles over time. If I divide both of these by 4, because I want to get down to 1, so I could say that the rate is 204 miles in 4 hours, but we want to be more specific. So I know that 4 divided by 4 is 1, and I know that 208 divided by 4 is 52. So my rate is 52 miles per hour. So now what it wants me to do is answer the same 2 questions in part B for the other 3 drivers. Okay, so for Mateo, his rate would be 456 to 8. I'm sorry, not his rate, his ratio. Just checking to see if you're paying attention. Is 456 miles to 8 hours. And his rate, again, we want to be specific, so we want to simplify. So it's 456 to 8. I divide both by 8. 8 goes into 45. 5 times. Goes into 16 twice. So his rate is also 52 miles per hour. All right, and then we have Janae, whose ratio was 300 miles to 6 hours. her rate. Okay, and I'll do it again. Move up here, so 300 miles to 6 hours. I divide both by 6. Now hers only breaks down to 50 over 1, so 50 miles per hour. And then my last one is Grayson. His ratio is 265. And I'm running out of space here, so we're going to move Grayson up here. There we go. So 265 to 5. And his rate, and I'll just let you know that that was 53 miles per hour. Okay, so far we've figured out the ratio for each of them and the rate for each of them. So now what we want to do, it asks us for each of the drivers in parts B and C, circle the unit rate and put a box around the rate unit. So here I have a unit rate of 52, so I'm circling that. And my rate unit was the miles per hour. Again, up here it was 52. My rate unit was miles per hour. I want you to try the last two and come back and check your answer. Right, so you should have found that for Janae it was 50 for the unit rate, and the rate unit was miles per hour, and the unit rate for Grayson was 53, and the rate unit was miles per hour. Okay, notice that for each of these, they were all their rate units were the same, but all their unit rates were not the same. So what that tells us is Grayson drove more miles on average than everybody else, and Janae drove less miles than everybody else. All right, so